And today we're talking about the timeline of a deal. So that's going to include everything regarding the transaction coordination from the start of the deal all the way until the deal closes. So what you can do, if you manage this yourself, you can go ahead and just follow along all of these steps, or if you have a virtual assistant or somebody doing your transaction coordination for you, you can actually just send this to them and have them follow these steps, and they can get with you on any questions. So pretty much transaction coordinators are those that manage all of the paperwork and deadlines that are involved in your transactions. So they'll be the ones that help you lock up the deals. So if you have an acquisitions person, that person would be the one who actually contacts the seller, does the negotiations, gets the contract locked up. Your transaction coordinator is the one who creates that contract. So that's kind of their first step in the transaction process after the deal gets sent to them. So if you're the one working the deal, once you have an accepted property, then you would just send that over to your transaction coordinator to create the contract based on the template that you have. We've provided a template. Always make sure you run that through your attorney in your area to make sure that it is sufficient for what you need it for. So that would be the first step. So we've already gone over acquisitions in detail on some of the other videos. And that's the lead generation, that's working those leads and then locking up your contract. So this is going to start there. Once you actually have locked up your contract, you'll want to, we'll start from the beginning. So when you enter a new area, let's start there. Or if you're already in a market, you'll want to make sure that you have your title company. A lot of you probably already have a title company or attorney that you work with. If you don't, you'll want to find somebody using that title company and attorney lead sheet just to make sure that they'll do certain things that we would like them to do as investors. So like your double closes, your dry double closes, your assignments of contract, those sorts of things. Not every title company is the same, and not every title company is going to be able to do those things. So you want to make sure you find someone to work with that's able to actually close your deals. So your transaction coordinator can help you in finding these title companies. We have all of those how-tos created as well. Pretty much they would just look up the title company in the area on like Google or Yellow Pages, make a list, and then they would call them filling out the lead sheet, and then would just review and make sure they can do what you need them to do. Okay, so the transaction coordinator should be involved in also creating or requesting a purchase agreement. So we actually have two different things that we do. We have our template that we use almost exclusively for our for sale by owner deals. So any deals that we lock up that we're either buying or selling, we use those templates ourselves. We do have an attorney that we also work with for a lot of our sales agreements or our bigger purchase agreements. We can do those ourselves, but sometimes it's just nice to run that through your title company or attorney. So we do it both ways. Either way you do this, you want to make sure that you have your inspection period. This is going to be really important, one of the most important things in your agreement. So always make sure that you have your inspection period. The day can vary. So we use a 14-day inspection period. That gives us enough time to lock up the agreement. If we plan to wholesale it, we can get those marketing ads out, or if we just want to do our inspections, that gives us enough time. If you're doing a lot of MLS deals, sometimes a lower inspection period, like a 10-day for bank-owned properties, that's pretty common. So you may have to be a little flexible there. But a lot of the for sale by owners will do 14 days minimum. Sometimes we'll even go out further if it's a larger deal. So a lot of the multifamilies or commercial deals will actually extend that inspection period out. And we don't usually have any objections to that. And then also you can see down here, so the wood infestation report or pest inspection, we get those done as well. And as you can see, we have in the writing here that the seller is actually responsible to pay for the treatment or damages. So we actually added that a couple of years ago, and again, we don't have any objections to that. So we just continued on. Let's see, we just actually got someone added here. We have, oh, hi, Robin.
Hello. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Hello? Oh, I said, hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing pretty good. It looks like you're the first one in here. We actually sent out the link a little late, as you probably saw. So we might have some people joining, we might not. So what I started doing is going through the training, and we can go back, and if you have any questions so far, we can answer those, but all of this is recorded, so you can always go back and see what you missed also.
I'm sorry, this is Amanda, right?
Yeah.
Amanda, I was actually writing an email to you right now, and I
Okay.
saw your email coming in. If I'm the only one here, can I ask you something?
Sure.
What happened with my VA in Fort Wayne, right? We got one seller who was really interested, and Zillow price was 39,000, and she was ready to give the property for 20,000 with the initial conversation with Jennifer. So we got a picture guy from one of the Facebook groups of Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the guy actually went to take pictures of the property, and he sent us the pictures, but he never took any inside pictures when it was clearly mentioned to him. I mean, he sent a couple of pictures first and then said he wants to get paid $75 first, and then he will send all the other pictures. And when he sent, it was only outside aerial view pictures.
Did you already pay him?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's going to be a tough one. That's why we would always suggest getting the pictures before you make any payment. And did you pay him $75 for the one house?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I would suggest finding someone a lot cheaper or having the seller send you pictures. $75 for photos is kind of steep. So I don't know really what recourse you have now that you've already made the payment. How did you make the payment?
Through PayPal.
Okay, then you could probably go to PayPal and dispute it. That's what I would do. And see if PayPal can work that out to get your money back since he did not deliver the service to you. But for future deals, I would not pay them until you have all of the pictures. And I would find someone that can do it cheaper. I would say probably $25 a house is pretty good.
Yeah, I think she got it from he was kind of professional real estate photographer. So
Okay.
he took all the drone pictures of from aerial views and everything. Pictures were really nice from outside, but we don't have anything to estimate on the inside ones. And a seller actually called, and she wants to get her answer by today, because the house is vacant right now. It's boarded up. Nobody lives there. And she's in Chicago, and she said she has a flight for Colorado on 16th. So she wants an answer. Otherwise, she have somebody else interested in the property.
Yeah, so what you can do, you can go back to the guy who took the pictures and ask him to get the interior pictures. If he won't, I would dispute the charge, get your money back. You can see if you can find someone else that can run over there and get pictures for you really quick. If you post a Craigslist ad, you'll probably get a lot of responses, but maybe, like I said, list it $20, $25 because they're really not, they don't need to be professional pictures, especially when you're doing acquisitions. A lot of the time, these pictures or these houses are going to need a lot of work. So you don't need professional quality photos. So just find someone cheap if the seller's not there to take the photos. Or if you can't find anyone fast enough, but you think this could be a good deal, what I would do, lock up the contract and just make sure that you have your inspection period in there. And that's what we were actually just talking about here. Make sure you have your inspection period. And then after you get the property under contract, keep trying to find someone to go get those interior pictures for you. And then you can review those at that time. And if for some reason it's too much work, then you can always terminate the agreement as long as you have your inspection period.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
So, alrighty. And if I'm able to get pictures, can I send you an email just to get some help with the estimate on the pricing?
We can take a look. It's not going to be, we can help you kind of figure out how to estimate. When you're looking at pictures, honestly, it's going to be like a best guess type scenario. You're just looking at some of the basic things. You're not going to be able to tell if it, it's not going to be a full rehab bid. So what you want to do is, are you going to be wholesaling this, Robbie?
Yes.
Okay, so Yeah, we can help you with a rough estimate. We actually have a training that I can look for and send you that will just give you a quick breakdown. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the pictures and you're going to decide if this is going to be a light, a medium, or a heavy rehab. And
Okay.
from there, we actually have just a easy tool. So you're going to multiply like the square foot of the home by X number, depending on the type of rehab, and that's going to give you a really rough estimate. And then if you know certain things, like for example, you know the roof needs to be replaced, or you know that it needs like full electrical rewiring or anything like that, then you can also add onto the rehab bid from there. But since you're wholesaling, just getting a very rough estimate is all you're going to need to do because you're not going to be doing the rehab yourself. So the person who you
Okay.
sell this house to, they're going to need to do their own due diligence. So they're going to need to, do the rehab themselves. This is not going to be on you. Wholesaling should be pretty easy as far as the information you have to get. You'll want to get, the photos, the home information, and maybe a rough estimate of like the ARV and the rehab. But the person who buys this house from you, they're the ones that are going to really dial this in because they're the ones that are going to be handling the rehab and everything.
Exactly. So my main focus should be now just getting the property in contract with the inspection period, and then we'll go from there.
Exactly. So if she's saying she needs your answer today, go
Yes.
ahead and lock up the contract. Just make sure you have your inspection period and then get photos. I would dispute that charge if, the person that you found to take the photos won't go back and get the interior pictures. I would definitely dispute that and get your money back from PayPal. They're pretty good about that, so you shouldn't have any problems. And then in the future, I would make sure you get all of the photos before you pay and find someone a lot cheaper, especially for these acquisition houses. You don't need anyone professional. You can just, even someone with a camera phone. I mean, a lot of these phones nowadays take pretty good pictures. So as long as they can get pictures that you can actually see what needs to be done, those should work for this.
Alrighty. I think I'll do that right now.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for your.
Well,
I'm going to jump out right now and just work on that.
okay, yeah, no
Thank
problem.
you.
Hi, Jack. I saw you join.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Just trying to learn all this stuff here still.
Oh yeah, of course. So I got started because I know we sent the link out late. Everything's going to be recorded, so we can always go back. But I wasn't too far into it. So today we're
Okay.
just talking about the timeline of the deal, and this is probably perfect for you because I know you're
Yeah,
having the
definitely.
virtual assistant learning a lot of the Podio stuff and the transaction coordination, and so this will be
Yeah.
great. And you'll have access to all of this. I don't know if Tyler adds that somewhere in like a Facebook or he sends out an email. I'm not really sure what he does on his end to get this to you guys, but we can have Hazel also go over this with, I think, is it Jen or who's your virtual assistant?
Her name is Joanna, but she goes by
Joanna.
Cams. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this will be perfect then. So we started with the transaction coordination part
Okay.
as far as getting things started. And are you just starting out in a new area?
Yeah, I'm still, my first campaign is on Monday.
Okay, great. So you
Yeah.
probably don't have a title company or attorney to work with yet, do you?
I have a couple that I'm talking to. I actually got a referral from another wholesaler in the area, so I'm
Oh,
gonna,
great.
so I got an email from them, but I'm that's in the process. So, but this will
Yeah,
definitely be helpful.
that's perfect. And what you did is awesome because getting a referral from somebody who's already doing the deals like you plan to do, like
Yeah.
wholesaling, that's going to be what you want because a lot of title companies or attorneys don't do some of the things that we need them to do. So that's what I was talking about in the beginning is finding that person. So you're already on that.
Okay.
And then the next step is exactly
Cool.
what you're doing. So you have your campaign going. You're going to be doing the lead generation, which we actually talked about in another video in these trainings. And I know they're all recorded. So if you need access to that, I'm sure we could get you access to that one that just talks about
Okay.
how to get those leads coming in. The transaction
Yeah.
coordinator is usually separate from acquisitions, but it can be one and the same. So for example, they're two separate positions, but they can kind of be combined. Like I do a lot of the acquisitions, the marketing, and that sort of thing, but I also do all of the transaction coordination. When we're talking about virtual
Oh, okay.
yeah, when we're talking about virtual assistants, if they're just starting out, we like to have them start out doing usually a couple of things at first to get really good. So if we're going to have Joanna or, whoever your virtual assistant is going to be starting out, it would be great to have her starting in like the role of maybe doing like either one or the other and then adding on as she goes. So for example, when I started out, I actually started out just, filing paperwork, going and getting coffee for Matt. I mean, that was my job. Personal assistant is what I got hired for. And just over time, he would add things here and there. And that's, over 7.5 years now, I do a lot that, some of it is just like the back of my hand because I've been doing it for so long, but it wasn't always like that. And honestly, if somebody just threw a lot of this stuff at me, it would be very overwhelming. So that's what I always suggest, especially with virtual assistants, is starting slow, give them a couple of things at a time, let them get really good at it. Because there's going to be a little hiccups here and there no matter how good the training is, just because everybody experiences that learning curve. But we like it to be quick, so we like quick learners. We know there's a learning curve.
Right,
We don't want the same mistake being done over and over and over. So there's a difference there.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, once you have your title company, which you're working on, you have your campaign set up, leads are going to start coming in. The next step, besides working the leads, and I'm guessing you're going to be working the leads that come in, right?
Yeah, I'll be kind of going out and inspecting and making sure that they're quality leads for now.
Okay, great. So once you actually find a house that you want to wholesale or you want to lock up, you're going to use your own template if you have one. Otherwise, we do have a contract template that has all of the things that we look for. So for example, our inspection period, this is the most important thing in your agreement because this is going to give you your out or even a tool to renegotiate. So like as long as you have your inspection period, you go to the house, you see it needs way more work than you anticipated, or hey, you can't sell it to another wholesaler, so you need to get it cheaper. It really doesn't matter. You have this inspection period, so you can go back to the seller and say, hey, like I need, a $5,000 reduction to move forward, or I need to, terminate the agreement because the work is just too much based on walkthrough instead of the photos. That's what we always use because we do take photos first and then we go do a walkthrough. So we just let them know that.
So that's kind of like the initial meeting is like you go get pictures, just a real quick estimate, and then this inspection period is where you go and maybe take measurements, like if you want to, I don't know, do a 3D model, for example, or something where you can have more time to put things together and make sure it's a good deal.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we do. Our acquisitions, we send him out to the houses that have potential. So we see that there's equity, we see that the house needs work, there's motivation for the seller. So it looks like it could be a good deal. We don't have it locked up yet though. So that's what we send our AQ guy to do. Yeah, and he takes the pictures, he gets just a quick description for us. That's when he sends us that. We make our offer, which is just based on what he told us. We don't have a rehab bid at this point. We don't have any of that stuff. Then we'll lock the property. And we like to think we're pretty good at, making those offers based on this stuff because we've been doing it for so long. But, then again, after we get the contract locked up and we send our actual rehab guy out, he's the one that's going to know exactly, what flooring is going to go in, if the air conditioner needs replacement. So then we get real hard numbers. And sometimes, sometimes it's just a little more work than we thought based on the pictures. And so we'll go back to that seller and say, hey, we really have to get this one, for $5,000 cheaper to move forward because it needs a new roof, because it needs a new this, blah, blah, blah. We try to give them a really good reason because a lot of times they don't want to terminate the deal. They've already spent all this time with us that it's just so much of a hassle to turn around and try to resell it to someone else. We just tell them
that makes sense.
Yeah, we have our numbers. If you agree to this price, we are good to close. And usually 9 times out of 10, they'll close.
Cool.
So that inspection period is just really important there. And then pretty much everything else is going to be once you have that contract fully signed. So this is where you can, in the beginning, if you're just starting out, I always recommend doing a couple of these yourself. The reason why, and I still do this to this day with like education, Matt will, say, hey, check this out. We might want to implement this program or this new website or do it this way. And he's like, feel free to pass off to virtual assistant if you're too busy, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is if I go ahead and just pass that task off, I'm not going to know what's going on. So the virtual assistant might be
Yeah.
great. She might learn everything and get things going. But then when, he asks me a question, or when something changes in the training, and you guys ask the questions, I'm not going to know. And the same thing with you when
Right.
you're starting out, you really want to know what's going on. That way also, if something gets
Mhm.
missed, you can jump in and say, hey, like, no, I know how this works and this thing didn't get done. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
you know
definitely.
first, yeah,
Yeah,
you need
trust but verify.
exactly. So I would do
Yeah.
a couple of these all the way through, maybe copy your virtual assistant so that she can see each step that you do and how you like to do things. And then after maybe like 2 or 3 of these, as you're sending them to the title company and she sees the process going through, you say, hey,
Mhm.
now we're going to switch roles. I want you to do this from start to finish and you copy me so that I can see what's going on. And then eventually she might not even need to copy you, but I always have my virtual assistants just copy me on everything. And I usually will copy Matt too on a lot of the contracts and stuff that go to the title company, just because even though he's not in the day-to-day, like, tasks and stuff that's going on, he still like that visibility to know what deals are closing, how many we have,
For sure.
under
Yeah.
contract, that kind of thing. So that's what I like to
Okay.
do.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, so when that contract is fully signed, the transaction coordinator or you in the beginning and your virtual assistant will open escrow. And all that means is just you send this contract to the title company, pretty much letting them know they're going to receive this file and they're going to be working on closing. So that's what opening
Okay.
escrow is, as far as, submitting your earnest money and that kind of thing. On all of our purchase agreements, we only do $1 earnest money for sell by owners. And we never have a problem. Now, in some of the bigger markets like your Miami, your Los Angeles, even Phoenix, that might not fly. You can try it, but you might have to have
Yeah.
some kind of earnest money. With our deals, like, we can get houses easily for like $15,000 to $30,000. That's like a typical price range. And so a
That'd be
$1
awesome.
yeah, yeah. So $1 earnest money, it's not really, and we always tell them
It's
too,
not
like, hey,
much.
it's not like you get to put this in your pocket. You don't get to go, down to Walmart and spend it right now. Like, you're gonna need to wait until
Yeah,
closing, so
exactly.
$1 or $100, it doesn't matter. It goes to the title company. Nobody's getting this money right now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I
that's
don't think Seattle would have a dollar
right.
escrow amount. I have to
Some
check
places
with the
won't.
title company for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and some places won't. We just like to do the minimum amount possible. So whatever that is in your
Okay.
and
Okay. That's good to know.
the only reason we even do that, because like I said, it goes to the title. So we don't care how much it is, other than tying up your money. So like, we like to do a lot of deals. We do volume. So if we're tying up, $1,000 here, 4,000 here, 5,000 here, that adds up really fast. And that's just money
It
sitting and
does.
sitting and
Yeah.
sitting until we close. So that's really the main reason we like to do it this way.
Okay.
Um, and then here we have just a quick email. So this is an example of an email that we send to the title company. So title company contact, her name is Amanda. Please see attached signed contract. We give her the seller attorney contact information, which you would get from the seller. And sometimes the seller will say, well, I don't have an attorney. They do need to get somebody to represent them just to do the title work and that kind of thing. So like, for example, you had a referral to your title company from a wholesaler. So maybe they might have
Mhm.
other contacts, like if someone they work closely with, you can actually just say, hey, like, you can contact this person. They could probably help you. It's usually not going to be your title company or attorney, just because of conflict of interest. They like usually for the
Yeah.
seller to, have somebody else.
So is that an everyday or an every case thing? Like, will each seller need to have some attorney or title company representing them, or if they're just selling their house, they just want cash, do they need to have one?
Usually, so I asked my contact this very same question, because we don't get that often, but we do get a few times where the sellers won't have an attorney and they'll be like, no, I don't want one. And she said that, yeah, they'll need somebody, because they have to do like the seller title work and stuff. They'll have to have somebody do that for
Oh,
them.
okay.
And it can't be our person
Okay.
doing yeah, so they will have to find someone usually.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and
That's
then
good to
just
know. I didn't know that.
yeah. So I always have a backup. a attorney that we usually don't close our deals with because we have someone we've worked with for a really long time, but they're also very well known, and we've referred them out a few times over the years to different sellers. So, and it works pretty well.
Okay.
You can have like a backup, like, you know, I can't give
Yeah.
you my title company or attorney, but here's one. And also always put in the contract that you want to close at your own title company too, not at theirs, just because that makes double closing and wholesaling a lot easier. That's
Okay.
another thing, which it might actually be in here later on. I just want to throw that out there.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then if you're financing the deal, so if you, a lot of this is going to be cash only, especially if you're wholesaling. You might not even need to put any of your own money in it. But for example, if you were ever financing, you just need to make sure that title company has the lender information and gets a copy of the purchase agreement. So I just wanted to put that out there. A lot of this is going to be cash only, wholesaling, that kind of thing. So you won't even need to worry about that part.
Okay.
And then ensure, so this is for any sales. So if you're selling, so for example, wholesaling a deal, you want to make sure the buyer's earnest money is in escrow on time. This is mostly for double closing if you require any earnest money from the end buyer. If you're assigning the contract, usually you don't have to worry about this part, but you do need to make sure. So let's say you lock up a contract with the seller and then you assign it to that end buyer. On your assignment fee, you want to make sure if you put any earnest money down in that original contract that you include that. So if you're you know, putting a $5,000 assignment fee, but you put $500 earnest money down in that original contract, then you want your assignment fee to be $5,500.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You don't want to lose
Okay,
that.
because then then you'd only get 4,500 if you didn't do it that way.
Right.
Okay.
And then once you have the deal locked up, that's when you would run your comps and get like a rental quote or do any of the due diligence that you didn't do before. So we see so many houses that running comps on every house that we see we would have to have a full-time person just doing comps only. So
Yeah. Okay.
to get that initial value, as you have all these leads coming in, especially in a new area, if you don't know what a house is worth, that's where even us, we'll just look at, you know, Zestimate or some of these other Trulia and that kind of thing to get an idea. And you can look at the recent solds. So like if the Zestimate seems really low or there's not a Zestimate, you can look and see like what's recently sold in the area and just get a quick idea. This is not going to be a hard number. It's just going to give you an idea of how to make your offer. So again, if you know you come back and you run this ARV after you have the contract locked up and you're like, oh man, like it's only worth 85,000 and I thought it was going to be worth 100,000. Well, there's room again to negotiate a lower price because you have your inspection period. So your initial numbers don't have to be like the hard, fast numbers. This is after you have the contract locked up. Now is when we're actually going to go through and get all of the hard numbers.
Okay. So, okay. Yeah, see, I was thinking that you were getting ARV, and that was kind of what was tripping me up as I was trying to make sure that I had the exact ARV, the exact rehab price before going in. So you only, for efficiency, the best way to do it is to just wait until you know that you're going to have a deal and then run ARV in the inspection period so that you can back out if you need to.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
And then we get rental quotes too. So Matt owns his own property management company that, he manages all of his houses and all of the investor houses and that kind of thing. So it's easy for us to get these rental quotes just because of that fact. But let's say in a new area, you don't have that. You can always ask either a realtor would be able to look on the MLS and get, a couple of rental quotes for you that are rentals in the area or that are listed as rentals in the area. Or you can always contact a property management company and ask them, or there's online sites as well. Zillow will sometimes also have some rental quotes. So just again, rough estimates, especially if you plan to wholesale, this is not going to be that important unless, you can say, hey, this rents between 900 and 950 based on the comps. And then again, it's up to your end buyer to then do their own due diligence. What you're sending out is going to be like a buyer that's going to have, the ARV that you found, the picture, the information, maybe some of these quotes, but they're going to need to take that and again, do their own due diligence. We really like getting things from wholesalers that have all this information on it, but I never, take their word. Again, trust but verify. know the Quad
Yeah.
City market so well now that I can look at it and say that house is only going to be worth, you know, 90,000 after rehab, or it's only going to rent 950 after rehab, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
A new area might be a little more time consuming just because I wouldn't know it like the back of my hand, but it's very, very doable and you don't have to spend a lot of time doing it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's again after you lock it up. Managing the inspections. So after you have it under contract, another does inspections. We don't spend any money whatsoever before before we have the contract locked up. So our acquisition guy is on our team, so obviously we're paying him. You know, I'm getting paid. Matt, like the team, that's different. I'm talking. We're not,
Hmm.
you know, buying a home inspection. We're not buying a termite inspection.
Oh, okay.
We're not doing any utilities or sewer inspections until we have the property under contract and we've run our ARV. We've actually sent out our rehab guy to get a quote. So that's what I do first. As soon as it's under contract, the first thing I do is I add it to my contracts tab in Podio. I set up my walkthrough with our rehab guy. Okay, and I
Okay.
run ARV. So after I run ARV, I wait for the rehab guy's inspection to come back. So it's not a home inspection. It's actually getting the rehab numbers.
Okay.
And then now I know if this is a good deal. So I know what our profit would be based on our actual rehab bid, our actual ARV, and then anything else in there that I have to add. So closing costs, any of that. Okay, so from there, now is when I would decide, okay, this is a good deal. I know we want to move forward. So now let's send our pest inspection guy to get, you know, the termite inspection. Let's send our sewer scope people out, the utility company out to do a sewer scope. Let's, you know, just any of those inspections that you need to get, this is now where you would get those. You don't want to spend money on something that, you know, you do all these inspections, then you get your rehab numbers and you're like, oh, this won't work anyway. And now I've already
Yeah.
put this
Okay.
out on the deal. And again,
Okay.
wholesaling, you're not going to need to do this. Okay, this is for like if you are actually keeping a property, because you obviously want to make sure that property is sound. You know, you don't want to buy something and have it.
Right. Right.
So if you're
Okay.
wholesaling,
So only. Sorry. Yeah. Finish. Sorry.
oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say. So you only really care about rehab numbers more so if you're planning to keep it than wholesaling.
Right. We get rehab numbers on all of our properties just because we always plan. I don't know if you can hear a baby in the background. I'm sorry. I'm upstairs and I have
Oh,
twin.
that's okay.
I have twin newborns.
Yeah, dang, you have your hands full.
Yeah, they're downstairs, but you can hear them here and there.
Yeah,
So
that's okay.
okay. So yeah, as far as keeping the deal, that's when you would do all your inspections and stuff. If you're gonna wholesale it, honestly, you don't want to spend a ton of money, a ton of time. Like it should be really fast and simple. You have someone go through, get the pictures and the condition of the
Okay.
property. Maybe that same person, if they're pretty knowledgeable, can give you a rough quote. Or I was telling Ravi this, we actually have, I'll have to find it, I think it's in the training somewhere, where it's really just a rough estimate. You take the square footage and then you decide, is this a light, medium, or heavy rehab?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
And that gives you just a super fast quote. Again, it's not going to be something that you want to do if you're keeping this property. But if you're planning to wholesaling it, again, that end buyer is going to be doing all of this stuff themselves. So you don't need to do it. In fact, don't do it if you're wholesaling.
Right.
You want to get rough numbers
Okay.
send so that you can say, hey, look at this. This is a great deal. And then they can just see, okay, yeah, it only needs this amount of work, blah, blah, blah. Then it's up to them to do, you know, the due diligence. You want to make it really fast
Right.
and easy on yourself when you're wholesaling. That's the good thing about wholesaling.
Okay.
Is you don't really have to come out of pocket for anything.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Okay, so for those inspections, if you do need to do any of this stuff, if you plan to maybe fix and flip or keep a house as a rental, you want to make sure you keep track of that inspection period, especially if you do have earnest money out. So if it's not only $1 or something like that, if you have significant earnest money out, you don't want to lose it. So you want to make sure, and Podio has the way in the contracts app, there's like an end inspection period. I know it is in ours, and it's really easy to add if you don't already have it, but that way
Yeah, I think I do.
yeah, and you can put like that inspection period deadline and have Podio notify you, or even down here how I have like the tasks, you can set up a task to yourself and make sure that you get notified. So see inspection period ending. That way you can either extend the inspection period if you haven't gotten all of your inspections done, or you can, say I need to terminate or get a reduction. Or if your
Okay.
inspections are done, everything's good, you don't need to worry about it. You're good. You just don't want to lose your earnest money.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, and then for wholesaling, adding a lockbox is really important. So we do a lot of vacant homes. We like them. They're so much easier than trying to, buy an occupied home or even do inspections on an occupied home, even if it's going to be vacant at closing, which we do a lot of those too. But if we don't have to mess with it and we can just get a vacant house, go and add our lockbox, that makes it easy to do inspections first of all, but also to send any of your wholesalers or possible end buyers through. So that's
Right.
going to be really
Okay.
important.
That's a
And
good idea.
what we do is we actually ask our acquisitions guy when he goes to lock up the property and put it under contract, we ask him to add a lockbox at that time if the house is vacant.
Okay. Okay.
So, and I know Matt used to have the sellers do that a lot too. So if if the seller's local and they're able to add a lockbox for you, you can have them do that.
Okay.
And then I just added, type of inspections we perform. So again, we send our rehab guy. We don't really do whole house inspections initially because we know these properties we're buying need work. So of course the inspector's job is to go through these and find everything possible that they can. So they're going to show you, if, I don't know, like the refrigerator door handle is like crooked. I mean, their job is literally to like nitpick. So if you send them through one of the houses that need work, I mean, the list is going to be long. It's not going to tell you much. Yeah, it's going to tell you, okay, it needs work. We know that. So we like to do these actual inspections after the house has already been rehabbed. That way, if anything's missed or we need to go back and do anything like this, we like to have a third party come in and pretty much just verify our work. And then we go through after that and fix all of those little items. So that's where this comes in handy, is after the house has been rehabbed. Again, if you're wholesaling, not a big deal. But if you're doing like a fix and flip or you're doing, you're keeping the house as a rental, this would be good to have. Or if you're even buying a house from somebody else, that's always good to have. Termite inspection, I don't know about your area if like some areas don't need this quite as much as others. In the Quad Cities, we do this on every single house. So a lot of time there's no issues. Even if, it needs treatment, we have a guy that will send right back out and get treatment right away. But every single one of our properties that we buy has at least the termite inspection report. And if it needed treatment, it got treatment. And we just save that information. Again, a lot of this stuff is going to be just to protect yourself. But if you're wholesaling it, this is the stuff that your end buyer is going to do. Or they can do. They don't have to do it. You don't have to tell them to do it. But if they want to, that's when they would do it. Okay, so once you have that house locked up, you've gone through all of your due diligence. It's a great deal. You want to purchase it. Or if you end up wholesaling the deal. So if you wholesale the deal, that contract gets sent to your title company as well. And then any invoices or commission statements or anything like that that you want added to the HUD for payment, for example, your termite inspection report and invoice, we add all of ours to the closing. You would just need to send that to them as well, and they can make sure that gets taken care of.
Okay.
And then I know you use Podio. So there's a couple of options here. Some people don't have Podio, so I did put like a spreadsheet, which I actually use both. I started out with a spreadsheet long before I had Podio. Yeah, I like it that way. And it's probably because I just like, I don't know. We've had it forever since I've started. It's kind of how I started tracking deals. And I still use Podio. Our Podio is completely up to date. But this, at a quick glance, I can just look at it. And Podio has the ability to do anything. So you can export your spreadsheet, with this little wrench. If you click the wrench and export, it'll your entire list. But again,
Podio's just kind of like a glorified spreadsheet, right?
Well, it has a lot of functionality. So
Yeah.
obviously the spreadsheet, you can't do much. Like you can put in some formulas, you know, you type it in, you manually enter stuff. It doesn't give you the ability to set reminders or push things over to certain tabs and stay
Right.
organized.
Yeah.
So if I had to recommend something, obviously Podio is awesome. We love Podio. But for people who maybe don't have it or just starting out, a spreadsheet would be fine until they ended up with Podio. I think if you plan to make this like
Okay.
a serious business, then Podio has to be the way to go eventually. But if you haven't
Yeah,
even
for
done a
sure.
deal yet, then spreadsheet might work until you can get that set up. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
so that's just deals pending. Keep your pipeline organized. So I know we were talking earlier over email, and just, you know, some people will like to work everything in the seller's leads here, but it's really important
Hmm.
that once you actually make an offer, that it gets moved over to offers and everything gets negotiated, contracts get created here. Offers is really important. And then also you can always follow up on those offers. So if everything stays under seller leads, it's going to be really hard to know what you made an offer on, to go back and follow up on that offer. This makes it really easy. And then once you
Okay.
actually have that signed contract, that's when it goes to contracts. So anything in the contracts tab is going to be locked up. This is not going to be anything that's, you know, being negotiated that hasn't been, a contract is not signed. This is only signed contracts here.
Okay. That's where you're working your inspections and
Yes.
putting all that information. Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Exactly. And then just like we were talking about before, the price reduction or termination. So if, you know, you found that you offered too much, if inspections come back pretty bad and needs more work, or let's say you locked the deal up and you sent out all your ads to all your buyers and nobody bites, you can't sell this thing, then you might want to go back to the seller and get a price reduction. Kind of fill out what people are thinking. So if you get no response, but you have some like good relationships with people, maybe ask them like, hey, like, what are you looking for? Did you see this deal? Like, you know, what's wrong with it? Try to find out why people aren't responding to it. And that way,
Okay.
you know, hey, it's the price, or maybe it's just not the area they want, or maybe they want 3 beds. Finding out what your buyers want is going to be like the most important thing when it comes to wholesaling these. Because if you just keep sending out your marketing ads, trying to, you know, sell your properties, and it's just not working, you don't really know what to change unless you start asking questions.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point.
Yeah, and then proceeding with closing. So really that's going to be your next step. Whether you're closing on this thing yourself or you wholesaled it to somebody else, you want to always stay in the loop. So if you sign the contract, you pretty much do take yourself out of the deal, but you want to still make sure that you get paid and that the deal closes okay. So stay in touch with the title company that has the contract and just follow up with them to see when the deal's closing, kind of what the status is and that kind of thing. So they know once the deal closes where either to send the check to or to wire your proceeds to. So even though you're completely now out of the deal as far as inspections and make sure, you know, titles being done, I mean, that's going to be, again, seller to buyer. You still want to stay in the loop on the closing. You don't want to find out a couple of
Yeah.
weeks later that the end buyer decided they're not going to close on it. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and then usually the title company will notify you with the closing date, but I like to follow
Okay.
up on everything. So I just always make sure that,
Yeah, I
um,
need to get in that habit too.
yeah. And then insurance and occupancy. So I like to talk about both. If you're wholesaling, this won't be an issue. If you're keeping it, you want to make sure insurance gets placed. Um, and then occupancy. So one thing we always do, especially when we plan to buy the vacant homes, is we make sure it's vacant. So there's a lot of times that we've bought a vacant home, we've been told it's vacant, even by the seller's attorney, and then we go to change the locks and, you know, start the rehab process to only find out either the previous tenant's still in there or we have a
Yeah.
squatter, which does happen.
Oh, geez.
So we actually have someone physically go to the property before it closes to verify that it is vacant. So
Okay. Okay. That's a good idea.
yeah. All right, and then it's just closing day. So on the closing day, again, stay in the loop. If you're assigned the contract, they'll just ask you where you want, you know, your funds to go. If you double close the deal, then you will have some paperwork to do to make sure everything gets, you know, set between you're going to be B, so A to B and B to C, because you're still involved if
Hmm.
it's a double close on those contracts. You'll fill out the HUD, which I know you've done this before. You've done the closing thing before, so you know that there's the
Yeah.
documents that need to be signed if there's any loans or anything like that, which we're talking cash deals, so most of the time there won't be on this type of scenario, but if there is, those will have to be signed and sent back. And then wiring. So like if you are still involved in the deal and it's a double close, we like to do dry double closes. So what that means is we don't like to actually send any money at all. Our end buyer would be the one funding the entire transaction. So they would send the money
Okay.
to buy it, which would then cover that first deal. And that's why in the beginning, when we talked about the title company and attorney, it's really important to find somebody that works with investors and that can do those double closings and dry double closings.
Okay. Yeah, because situations can change, and
Right.
want to be ready for all of them.
Yep, exactly. Okay, and then so once it's closed, I usually get confirmation from our title company and attorney. If they don't go ahead and provide that to you, you can always just ask like, hey, just wanted to make sure this is closed and funded. And then we have them send us the final settlement statement. So we get those and we sign those, and so does everybody else involved in the transaction. But we like to actually have the fully executed version for our records. And that kind of tells me that it did for sure close before I do anything like cancel insurance, change utilities, that kind of thing. We don't want to be doing those things if we still own the property, or if we don't own if we haven't purchased the property yet. So.
Okay.
And these are just a list of items to do. So if you owned a house and you end up selling it, so like for example, a rental house that you own or something like that, you sell it to someone else, you want to make sure that you transfer the utilities, that the tenant's notified. If it's a vacant house and you're buying it, you want to change the lockbox, maybe add it to your lawn and snow care list. Again, if you wholesale it, none of this is going to apply to you. You're not going to own the property. So you just collect your money and go about your day. Okay, but
Easy.
yeah, but if you do own the property or anything like that, or you sell a property you've owned for a while, and there are things that need to be done, we actually send a team email out. So, for example, when you've bought a property from us, we actually would have sent an email out kind of like this, and it just notifies everybody that, hey, this property closed. Reach out to the new buyer and say, hey, how's it going? Find out what's going on. Make sure they have your contact information. And then all of these things get assigned. Maybe not exactly like this, depending on if it's a sell or a purchase. And then we just give all the home information, if there's any kind of brochure related, just to make sure our entire property management company, acquisitions team, sales team, everybody's in the loop on what's going on.
Okay.
And then ongoing management. So for wholesale, again, a lot of this stuff is not going to apply. It's going to be really, really easy. Hopefully you don't have to come out of your pocket with any money. You don't have to spend a lot of time. Wholesaling is the best case scenario. And if you get really good at it, you probably won't want to do anything else.
Yeah.
but if you have, ongoing management, so we do a lot of this stuff when we close on a property. If we, sell it or even purchase it, there's going to be a lot of additional things that we have to do administratively. So we want to make sure that everybody's in communication with the clients, agents, title company, coordinate any walkthroughs. So after the closing process, there's still things that we have to get done, like making sure the utility companies turn on the utilities or transfer the utilities. Like AppFolio we use a lot for our rentals. So if we sell a property or purchase, we need to make sure that gets updated. So this is just a list of various activities that happen after the fact, and some may apply and some may not, but it's just good to have kind of everything we do so that you can decide what applies to you and your business.
Okay. Yeah, that all helps a lot. I mean, I definitely will be focusing on wholesaling initially, but as time goes on, that definitely hopefully will change. And once I get kind of experience managing rental properties and all that, so.
Yeah, for sure. And then I don't know if you can still see my screen, but this transaction
Yeah, I can.
flowchart is just a a really simple step-by-step breakdown of what we just talked about. So again, this should be accessible to you. If you can't find it or don't know where it is, Tyler should be able to direct you guys to where all of this stuff will be. So you can just, go through and look and see, after we create the purchase agreement, what happens next. And then you can just kind of follow it step by step there. And if there's any questions about a specific step, that's where you can go over here and just find that. And it's in real detail over here in the actual Word document.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's about it for the timeline of a deal. One thing that I didn't talk about is just as far as getting those contracts locked up, we like to make sure that we don't waste a lot of time. So for example, if you go to sell a property and your wholesaler or your end buyer says that they want to actually buy the property, you want to make sure they're not just kicking rocks and tying up your property for a week or two, because then that's going to keep you from being able to sell it, and it's going to irritate the seller, the title company, you. So we like to give a deadline on signing contracts, just so it's not tied up. So for example, if somebody says, yeah, I'll buy it, you get the contract created, you send that over, and they sit on it, 24 hours. We like to say 24 hours, but no longer than 48. 48 is a pretty good number. That gives them a lot of time to review the contract, go over it with their attorney if they need to, make any changes, anything like that. After that, though, there's a very high likelihood they're going to come back and say that they don't want to sign it. So you don't want to tie up your property, especially when you only have a limited number of days for your inspection period, to be able to send it out to other buyers. So that's one thing that I would make sure that you don't let people sit on your properties for too long before they sign the contract.
Yeah, good point. So say you're doing a double close and closing day is tomorrow and you haven't found a buyer. Is that built into the contract that you can extend the closing date, or are you kind of stuck with the property?
It's not. So during that 14-day inspection period that's on your contract, you want to make sure that you have the contract locked up with your end buyer. So that's going to be that 14 days is going to be a grind time. So those first 24, 48 hours, that's when you're going to do all of your rough numbers. You're going to get the photos. You're going to do all of those things so that you can create your marketing brochure and send that out to your buyers. From there, they should have enough time to review the deal, get that second contract signed, send that to the title company. Now, let's say you couldn't sell it within those 14 days. That's when you know that there's an issue. Either the price is too high, it's not an ideal area, or it needs too much work. That's when you ask your end buyers, that you have those good relationships with, hey, why doesn't this work for you? Now if it is priced or too high, you go back to that seller and say, hey, I can't, we got to get a reduction on this for me to move forward. So that's within those 14 days. That's when you're doing all of that work to make sure that you can lock that up with that end buyer. That
makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Did you have any other questions right now? If you always think of something later, you can always ask too.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't have any right now, but if I do, I'll be sure to reach out to you or Hazel.
Okay, awesome. Well, that sounds good, and it was good talking to you. I guess we can go ahead and stop this here, and you'll be able to see this on the playback too.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Of course. It was good talking to you, Jack.
Yeah, you too. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.